let's talk a little bit about Canada with Canada's own Jordan B. Peterson. He's the author of this book. It is called 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. When the book came out, it's now #1 on Amazon. He was on our couch, but we wanted Dr. Peterson to join us today. First off, Dr. Peterson, you put together this book after hearing from the people that talked to you after attending your lectures, right?
Yes, well, and before that as well. I've been writing it for about 5 years.
So the whole idea of 12 rules for life is what?
Well, people need guidelines in their life, and what I've done is to try to write a sequence of rules that are witty and sometimes obvious as well, I suppose, but to try to go deep down inside of them and to find out why it is that we need principles to live by, and also to point out that we do in fact need principles to live by to guide us towards a meaningful and productive life, and one that helps us deal with the tragedy and malevolence of existence.
Well, we'll all have to go pick that book up. Congratulations on it, making it to #1. You've been on our show quite a few times, and you are just so smart. So I think your advice is something that other people need to pick up and read through the pages. Thank you so much for also weighing in on some other topics affecting your area, Canada. You're in Toronto right now, and Justin Trudeau, he interrupts a woman at a town hall. She's asking him a question, and he didn't like one of the words that she used. Listen to this soundbite, and then we'll get your reaction.
All right.
So that's why we came here today to ask you to also look into the policies that religious charitable organizations have in our legislation so that it can also be changed, because maternal love is the love that's going to change the future of mankind. So we'd like you to look
we like to say peoplekind, not necessarily mankind, because it's more inclusive.
There we go, exactly.
And the crowd roars.
Yeah. Well, it's quite the performance. I mean, I'm afraid that our Prime Minister is only capable of running his ideas on a few very narrow ideological tracks. We saw the first evidence of that when he put his cabinet together. He insisted upon making it 50% women, despite the fact that only about 22% of the elected MPs were women. And it was easier for him to do that than it was for him to screen people for the sort of competence that would actually be necessary to be cabinet members. So we've seen a fair bit of this behavior, but that was the most egregious example, I suppose.
Dr. Peterson, I recall you taking some heat because you said you would refuse to use these gender-neutral pronouns. Why was that?
Well, I actually said that I would refuse to use the pronouns that were mandated by law because they were mandated by law. I feel that it's completely inappropriate of the government to decide what language the citizenry should speak. There's never been an example of that in British common law history, and I believe that that was a very, very bad precedent. I didn't want to use language that I thought was generated by radical leftist propagandists, and so I said I wouldn't do it.
I saw one tweet this morning that said Neil Armstrong should have said one small step for peoplekind.
Yeah, well, you know, Trudeau was listening to an earnest woman try to discuss something important, and he interjected a ideological statement in the middle of the dialogue, and that indicates, I think, precisely the way he thinks. And I don't think he does think. I think he runs an ideology in his head and accepts the output without question. And I think we're really going to pay for it in Canada in ways that we can't yet imagine.
Well, we're going to find out because you believe it's coming to us here in America, and you've been to both countries frequently. Now let's talk about something else.
Meanwhile, the feminist movement, the Me Too movement, there was talk about whether they were going off the rails. Apparently, they have gone full scale off the rails. We begin today with Justin Trudeau. Suffice it to say that Justin Trudeau is Owen Wilson from Meet the Parents, except without the woodworking skill. Justin Trudeau is one of the more obnoxious, sycophantic, ridiculous, idiotic teenage girls in a boy's body that I've ever seen. I mean, it's insane. The guy's only famous because his dad was Gary Trudeau. His previous life, what did he do in his previous career? I can't remember. It was something ridiculous. It was like he was a grocery checker or something dumb. He was not that grocery checkers are dumb, but it's not really a qualification for being Prime Minister of Canada. His career before that, let's see. In 2009, he was appointed to the Liberal Party's critic for youth and multiculturalism. In 2011, he was appointed as critic for secondary education. He worked as a teacher in Vancouver. He completed 1 year of an engineering program, 1 year, and then 1 year of a master's program in environmental geography. And he worked and he was an athlete or something. And so there's a bunch of pictures with his shirt off, and apparently this makes the ladies swoon or some such nonsense. In any case, Justin Trudeau was on camera, and he said several silly things on camera. Here is one of the silly things that he said on camera. He was asked, someone wanted to ask him a question about mankind. The person asking the question happened to be a female student, like a woman. So Justin Trudeau mansplains to her that she shouldn't use the word mankind. Oh my goodness, just watch this moron.
Maternal love is the love that's going to change the future of mankind. So we'd like you to look
we'd like to say peoplekind, not necessarily mankind.
What the F is wrong with this guy? Peoplekind? Do you mean humankind, like an actual word? Peoplekind? As Jack Handey once said, mankind is made up of two words, mank and ind. You don't know what either of them means, and that's why mankind is so mysterious. But still, like Justin Trudeau, my God, the man is, if the song Imagine could take human form and then eat a Tide Pod, that would be Justin Trudeau. He is. Do you understand the stupidity of this? First of all, the word mankind comes from humankind. It is just a shortened version of humankind. Is there any woman on earth who is serious about feeling offended when people say mankind? Of course, mankind includes women. Okay, we are the species of man. It doesn't mean we are a species only of men. Oh, the levels of stupidity. But this is supposed to be empowering for women. Honestly, if you're a woman and you feel empowered because a man just mansplained to a woman that she can't use the word mankind, if that makes you feel more feminist because Justin Trudeau just told a female student who was talking about the power of motherly love that she shouldn't use the word mankind, that makes you feel like a real feminist, let me suggest that something is wrong with you in the head. That wasn't the only dumb thing that Justin Trudeau said yesterday. Justin Trudeau also compared ISIS terrorists, apparently, to immigrants from Vietnam, Greece, and Italy, which makes perfect sense.
First of all, the fact that one of the reasons Canada is successful as a country is because we have been open to people fleeing persecution, fleeing war zones, looking for a better life for themselves and their kids. When we welcomed in waves of refugees, whether it was the Ismaili refugees in the early 70s, whether it was the Vietnamese boat people in the early 80s, whether it was people fleeing the devastation of the Second World War from Southern Europe in the 50s and 60s, the Italian communities, the Greek communities, the Portuguese communities, and others.
Okay, so here's the problem with this. The question that he was asked here, the question that led to him saying all of this was a question about letting in people who could be affiliated with ISIS. Right? So the guy asked him a question and it said, how are you going to protect future Canadians like my young daughter 10, 15, 20 years from now when you're letting in people with an ideology that just does not conform to what we're doing here? And then Trudeau immediately lumped in a bunch of people who may be sympathetic to terrorists with all the other refugees coming in from all the other countries. He doesn't say we're going to ideologically screen people, which would be the proper answer. Instead, he says this because Justin Trudeau must have been dropped on his head as a baby. But it's okay because he comes from a famous family. Lest it be said that America is stupid for electing President Trump or for electing George W. Bush or for electing Kennedys or legacy families. Canadians, before you get on your high horse about this is your prime minister, guys. Good call. Okay, so if this is the new feminist movement, Justin Trudeau lecturing women about using the word mankind, that was not the end of the stupidity. The New York Times ran a piece yesterday that included a song. Okay, the person who did this song, and then they ran the entire lyric as an op-ed. And then the name of the woman is Emily Lynn. She voices Eric Trump, Ivanka Trump, Karen Pence, Nancy Pelosi, and Betsy DeVos on Stephen Colbert's Our Cartoon President. Of course she does. And she did a song about how hard it is to date. Okay, I just want to play some of this because if you want to date this woman, you are out of your mind. Maybe it's hard for her to date because she's a crazy person. Because here's her stupid song.
Hey. Have you been reading the news?
Yeesh, maybe let's order some booze.
Well, I'd really like to hear about your views.
This movement's gotten just a touch out of hand.
Well, change only happens after taking a stand.
Hey, would you ever want to come see my band?
What did you say? That's not okay. I'm feeling triggered and you've ruined my day. Hey, ho, ho. Donald Trump's gotta go. Join the resistance, you tone-deaf Joe Schmo.
Why wouldn't you want to date this? I don't understand. Why can't she get a date, guys? Like, all the guy said there was, I think maybe the movement's gotten a touch out of hand, and then she goes crazy and says she's been triggered and you need to join the resistance. And she says, have you been reading the news? She says, maybe I can order a drink. Because you're at a bar. Okay, what's wrong with these people? And then you wonder why you can't, my goodness. I love this. It continued along these lines, by the way, this crazy lady playing her ukulele, like Michael Knowles. And it continues. She says, this is one, she says, this guy's garbage. He's clearly a foe. Why? Because he said he wanted to order a drink. Maybe she'd want to come see his band. Yeah, that's sexual predation now. It continued along these lines, by the way. She says, you see, we're victims of systemic oppression. And the guy says, yeah, but thank God we're in a time of progression. And then she says, your deflection is a microaggression. And the guy says, I didn't mean it. Please don't be mad. And she said, oh, buddy, do you have more to add? And he said, hashtag not all men are that bad. And then she says, what did you say? That's not okay. I'm feeling triggered in every which way. Doesn't that plant look great? Go ahead, masturbate while I call Ronan Farrow to break up this date. Singing, ooh, men are toxic. Ooh, why on earth am I straight? Why on earth are you not in an insane asylum? I mean, my goodness. The guy legitimately says, in your little made-up mind, right? This conversation never happened. This is in your little made-up mind, right? That we're in a time of progress for women. True. But that's a microaggression. Then he says he didn't mean it. He backs off, and then he says that not all men are bad. And then she says that that's a microaggression. He's just like Harvey Weinstein. And then there's another one where she says, so I assume you've roofied my beer. And the guy says, man, that joke is way too severe. And she said, well, we've had a terrible year. And he says, I swear I sympathize with your plight. And she said, Hal, you're a straight cisgendered man who is white. And the man says, wow, can I say anything right? And she says, what did you say? That's not okay. My cat person doesn't exist anyway. Unless it's my cat, that's it. I'll marry my cat. He wouldn't hurt me because he's not like that. And then the cat says, I can't consent. She says, fair enough. Okay, maybe the problem here is that, oh, my goodness. Okay, so there are no more words. There are no more words. This was on the op-ed page of the New York Times. So maybe she's joking. But it's not clear that she's completely joking about herself. It seems like she's just treating men like men are all crazy. So that's just awesome. It was called The Dating Blues #MeToo. That's what the actual name of the piece was. So well done, New York Times.